Alright, here's the next part that I'm going to do is I'm going to replace the smoothing caps here. I measured them and they were quite off on their capacitance readings. So what I did was I ordered these new replacements, the same values, but as you can see, modern capacitors are much smaller with the same capacitance. So 4700 microfarads at 50 volts maximum voltage, and that's exactly what these capacitors were rated at, and they're pretty much done. So obviously, because they're smaller, they're not going to fit into these nice little holders that are built onto the unit. However, I have a cheat, and my cheat is my 3D printer. So what I do is I just happen to have white in the printer. I didn't want to change PLA plastic, so I just went with a white. Doesn't matter, you're not going to see it anyway. So these will fit in here, and then they will take their place in these. So I measured the diameter and the diameter of these, and that's the inside hole. And you make a little groove in it so there's a bit of flex there, so it fits on snugly, and then when you tighten it down, then it'll actually hold the capacitor in place without allowing it to shift around or anything like that. So on these ones, they don't have the stripe on it, it's just black is negative, so of course we'll have to wire it the same way, and that's what we're going to do. So I don't need to show you how to do that, it's just soldering, unsoldering, and unbolting. But that's the technique I use for replacing old smoothing caps or any kind of capacitors that have holders like that. I use my 3D printer for good use, and gin these things up, and it only takes about an hour to print. So there you go. And there you have it. You can see the loops there now that it's going to be easier to solder those wires onto. Okay, here I've got the one capacitor pulled, and this is from the one of the smoothing caps that came out. It's 4700 microfarads, 50 volts, so as you can see it's the same value. And I've hooked it up to my little tester here, and we'll just see what it's rated at, or what it's reading. So 2924 should be reading upwards of 4700, probably a 10% cap. So yeah, way out of tolerance. So that one was done. And here you can see I've got the first cap in. These things aren't soldered yet. I'm just making sure I got the right distances for the wires and everything. So hooked up the same way it was. So this is my black terminal here, so that'll hook up to the black terminal of here, and then I'll just pop that in there and fit it in just similar to that. And there we go. It's wired exactly the same as it was with the older caps, only these caps are smaller. I just have to put the one screw in here. One could say that I could go to a larger smoothing cap, and that probably would have been more sensible, but you know what, I don't have a lot of information on this integrated amplifier, and the service manual I did get is just a partial, so half the pages are cut off. So yeah, I'm not a designer, I just want to fix it the way it was, and so I went with the low road, which was to use the same rated capacitors as what I pulled out. And here's the other one I've just hooked up. I haven't seen what it is yet, so let's have a look here and see. Same rating. Let's see what that's reading. 2893, a little higher. Well, is it? I don't think so. Anyway, yeah, still far off from 4700 and certainly not within 10%, so these needed to go. So it's a good thing I swapped those out. Alright, that was the smoothing caps, and as you can see, I've replaced a couple of output transistors. The one that I had was a MJ15016 and in these two places. I had one working one, and the other one was fried. And yeah, so what I did was I got the M15016Gs. Hopefully that'll work as a suitable replacement. And then I've got the same idea with the 15024. I've got the old one here, and the old one was on this side was fried as well. So this side was working, but what I want to do is replace them with the same rated transistors, the same type of transistors. These are manufactured in Mexico. So I got a Mexican one I actually got from eBay. So we'll see how that pairs up. Anyway, we'll probably have to do some adjusting at the end. Yeah, so next we've got to do some cleanup of these boards. As you can see, one of the capacitors I pulled out right there, and I've got a replacement. This was a bad capacitor, so I'm set. So these are two I've already replaced. This one I'm going to pull. This one is I've got one sitting waiting to go in to replace it. And we'll do all the can caps on this board, just because given those caps have gone, we'll go through all the boards consecutively and replace all the caps. And what I'll do is I'll pull some of these, actually most of these transistors, and make sure that they're all functioning correctly. And yeah, with a board this old, and this thing looks like it's looks like it was a heavy smoker or something, or just heavy dust. I've started cleaning on this board, but you can see I still got a long way to go because of all the areas in here that are just full of scum. So I've hit all of these with either deoxit or fader lube for the pots, and deoxit for the switches. And yeah, we'll go through and measure all and make sure all these diodes are working correctly. And there's one down in here, probably a Zener. Yeah, I think it is. And we'll go through everything one by one. And same with this relay. I'm hoping that doesn't need to be replaced, but if it does, I might actually even have a relay that'll work for it somewhere in here. Anyway, I've filed it in a different location. Looks like these two wires were really brittle, so I've got to fuse those back on. And I really like the work they did on these boards. They used the coiling method of connecting up to the terminal, same as Pioneer did back in the 70s. So yeah, all these look like they're good, but they still need a good clean. This whole thing needs a good cleaning, as you can see. And all of the screws that hold these boards, these were clamped down here, but there's screws that screw into these heat sinks. They're all missing, so I've got some replacement screws, and they seem to fit. So we'll see how that transpires. Yeah, hopefully we can get this thing working.